AI artist. Is that how I would call you?
You don't call somebody paintbrush artist, do you?
Some artists are still not comfortable with AI. It's parasitic, it's theft, it's cheating.
Everything that we create is built upon what came before us. Even a traditional artist, they were influenced by other artists. So would you say they're stealing from the other artists?
Let's say tomorrow there's an AI artist from Myanmar or from Thailand generating art, but some of the foundational images have been scraped from Nice Aunties.
I'm completely fine if somebody wants to base their work on my work. I'm flattered.
Why did you choose the topic of aunties?
Auntie culture is a huge thing that everyone knows about, but nobody talks about because it's seen as such a negative label.
Today on AI Across Borders, we're diving into the colorful, subversive world of Singapore's own Nice Aunties. Known for reimagining auntie culture, those beloved, bustling figures of everyday life through surreal AI-powered art, Nice Aunties has taken a hyper-local story from wet markets and hawker centers and brought it to galleries in Paris, Basel, and Los Angeles. With a TED Talk under her belt and a growing global following, she's proving that AI isn't here to kill creativity, but to remix it in ways the world has never seen before. We're thrilled to explore her vision, her process, and of course, what the aunties may say about all this. So welcome, Nice Aunties. It's so great to have you at AI Across Borders.
Well, thank you for having me.
Good morning. It was such a pleasure to get to know your work at Fortune's AI Brainstorm Conference in Singapore. And since then, I have been your biggest fan. And it's so unusual that we have such a great AI artist. Is that how I would call you here in Singapore? How would you call yourself?
I think most people would say AI artist, but I think it's a term that will not stick after a while because you don't call somebody paintbrush artist, do you?
That's a good point. So, an artist using AI.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Nice Aunties, tell me about Singapore and your childhood here and what inspired you to go from your career path from architectural design to now where you are.
I grew up in Singapore in the 80s where there was no internet. There was nothing to do except to read and watch TV. And I grew up with my grandparents and in a household full of aunties and uncles. But of course, I spent most of my time with my aunties because the women were expected to take care of children while the men worked. It's a very traditional setup. So my parents were working then. So for the first 10 years of my life, I was spending most of my time with my grandmother and aunties. And so I was like, bored. My life existed in a bubble until one day, my auntie, she introduced me to Japanese manga. And then my imagination totally exploded, especially with this manga called Doraemon, which is about this cat, robot cat from the future who has like amazing gadgets, like a doll that can take you anywhere in the world. So I started to imagine all these stories and characters, and I would doodle and draw and make up stories in my head because there was nothing much to do. And then, life happened. You do what your parents and society expect you to do. Take the safe path, go to secondary school, junior college, university, and there was no art course at university at that time. The closest one I could find was architecture. So I went in there and then again, lots of discipline, lots of rules and structure, very much like how I was brought up because my father is a very strict Chinese man. Lots of rules. I had curfew at 7 p.m. till I was 18. Yeah. So, when AI happened not too long ago, I felt like my imagination and everything that's built up since childhood was unleashed, for lack of a better word.
And what was that moment when you wrote something and you were able to create something with AI that in your imagination you could see?
Okay, so 2.5 years ago, AI wasn't that sophisticated. You prompt on something and then it doesn't exactly follow what you want. But still, that moment was miraculous. It was like a wow, I could do this. It felt like I had a lot of power in that instant.
And why did you choose the topic of aunties? Tell me about what it means to you and what it means in Singapore.
Okay, so auntie culture is a huge thing here that everyone knows about, but nobody talks about. Firstly, nobody wants to be called an auntie because it's seen as such a negative label, being very old-fashioned and naggy and general lack of boundaries. Like I see the behavior in my own family members. Like I will go to a family gathering and auntie will like, oh, you look fatter. What happened? Or like ask awkward questions like, how much do you earn? Why are you still single? It was kind of awkward. And I spent a long time wondering, why do they ask questions like that? And do I want to become like this as I get older? So when I started this AI project, I wanted a big story arc to tie all my creations together. And it seemed like a natural thing to talk about aunties because I was trying to answer this question that's been hovering over me for the longest time. So I called it Nice Aunties because it seemed like an irony at that time. And I know auntie is much more than just being labeled in this negative way. Because I've seen in my aunties lots of creativity and humor and fun and kindness, and they show their love in a multitude of ways. And I saw them hold a family together in ways that nobody thanked them for.
And so what exactly did AI enable you to do? Could you walk us through one of your, pieces from your ideation to, because the whole thing is made with the help of AI.
I guess it's always the big question of what does being an auntie mean? And how do I feel about aging? And also about reframing the idea of the auntie from something negative to positive. So for instance, take from history and myths and legends, the story of Sisyphus, which is about this poor guy doomed to push a rock up a mountain forever in repetition. But I would think, okay, in the aunties world, which I call the Auntie-verse, this would never happen because the aunties would do this together as a community and they will make it fun and enjoyable and they will turn it into something positive at the end. So I made a video where aunties push a ginormous onion up a volcano and then they were doing it together. And at the end, they pushed the onion into the volcano and up came onion rings. So it's like about collaging stories that we are familiar with, mixed with aunties, with a positive outcome. So that's what I try to do with many of my narratives. Also, I think it is a personal journey as well, trying to answer these questions in my head.
And where do you start working with AI in that process?
So the ideas always come first, and I will start breaking it down into scenes in my head, and I will prompt the scenes one by one. So auntie's pushing a giant onion, that's one scene. And then how the onion goes through different processes of moving up the mountain, there's different scenes with different animals. Then the volcano is another scene. So you do have to break it down yourself and then use AI to make the imagery.
And actually, it's animated also.
Yes.
Some are images, some are animated, and then you also put music and sound, and that's all AI generated.
Yes, it's entirely AI. So text to image, AI, then image to video with AI, and then sound effects, it can be prompted with AI now, like the onion sizzling on the pan, that's a sound with AI. Or the music, background music, you can prompt. I always prompt with like emotions, like how it feels. It feels quirky, it feels joyful, and maybe it is a trap dance kind of vibe. And then you do the prompt, and then when it sounds right, and then it's sort of put together in a traditional video editing way.
So would you say that without AI, you would have been much slower at this? Like, what has it really done? Is it like a creative thought partner? Is it just an assistant for you? How do you view its role?
When I work in architecture, I always worked in a team. And then you assign different tasks to different team members, and then you feedback, and then you put everything together, right? Collectively. So working with AI is very similar to that process. But the team never gets angry, and they're much faster.
And, art is anyway difficult in Asia sometimes to choose that, to take that on. So tell me how it was to pursue that with your family in Asia or with your friends, leaving something that felt like a career that was more certain.
Wow, this is a very good and complex sort of questions with very nuanced and layered answers. Because, growing up in Asia, there's always this umbrella over everybody about having economic stability. I mean, it's not that there is no art, but it's just not as commodified like in Western cultures. When I was in secondary school, I was in this program called the Art Elective Program, but it was seen as a very, very small part of the population. There were only 4 classes in the entire year of cohort in 4 different schools. So it seemed like something very elite. And doing this now, kind of post mid-career, or maybe still considered mid-career, I get the most typical questions like, oh, you're very brave, where do you find the courage to do this? Or do you actually earn money from this? This is a very practical question. And then I was interviewed for the Straits Times, and the journalist asked me, is it okay to review your age? I'm like, yeah, why? And he said, oh, because you're kind of old to be doing this. Yeah.
It's kind of shocking.
I know, but it's also interesting. It reflects the mindset of this society, which is cool because, I kind of like to be doing something different and true to myself.
Younger people seem much more open to being artistic. There's this sense that there's creativity in every profession. So maybe it's, as you said, it's changing now in Asia and in Singapore. Would you say that's true?
I certainly hope so, but I do feel like if you look around the world, there are many positive examples of societies who push the boundaries more. Like, for instance, we talk about digital art and identity. AI seems to be pretty new here, but in Japan or Korea, AI celebrities and personalities are already a norm on social media. Right. Like when I did a TED Talk in 2024, there was a fellow speaker who had a AI personality, Ima, who's already appearing in like the cover of Vogue magazine and all those high-profile commercial projects as an AI avatar. And then say in South Korea, there are many public projects that talk about digital art and AI, large-scale exhibitions that educate the public. And maybe that's something that we can learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to the question that you have been exhibiting globally. You gave a TED Talk in Vancouver. You were on a billboard in Los Angeles. You've been in Basel. You were just in with L'Oreal in France. Which culture do you think is the most open to this form of art that's, created in collaboration with AI? Where have you found that the community, the culture is open, experimental? And of course, you mentioned South Korea and Japan, but what about the others? What is different between different cultures?
I think it all comes down to timing and about what's unique in that pool of information you can see at that time. So for the past 2 years, the AI space was dominated by Western culture. So when I came in with aunties and in a particular aesthetics that is not the same as the Western aesthetics, it jumped out visually as something quite unique. So I think I was fortunate in that sense, right place at the right time. So therefore, the Western cultures, like in the US and Europe, Nice Aunties is very much celebrated. Not as much in Asia. In fact, most people don't know about Nice Aunties.
There's this whole theory that because the large language models like ChatGPT or Claude, they're made in the West.
Yeah.
The values, the way of speaking, even maybe the art they generate, unless very specifically prompted, becomes, there's kind of a digital colonialism happening where it's really their lens, their eye. And that's why we're seeing countries like UAE and Singapore and others coming up with their own large language models.
Yes, for sure. And I see that changing for sure. Asia and the rest of the countries is going to catch up and rise up. And then we're going to see more content similar to what I have been making. But if you were to talk about a particular country, I would say that I have exhibited in France a lot more than other countries. I mean, they were the first people to set up all these guidelines on AI, right? During the AI Action Summit earlier this year. And actually, many people found out about me through that conference, like Fortune AI Brainstorm and also some people from the Singapore government.
I was just at a conference and I was telling them about you, and several people in the audience already knew and immediately went to your Instagram, and I could just see them showing it to the person next to them, the way that you have not only really broken through at the international art scene, and congratulations
Thank you.
on your Lumen Prize finalist position, but also that you have done it unabashedly, being immersed in your own culture, your own childhood, your own countries. How do you feel when you see yourself like a huge prize, like Lumen, kind of highlighting your work as a finalist 2 years in a row?
Wow, I feel incredibly fortunate, of course, and also really pleased that the idea of the auntie is getting out there. Because other than asking myself the question about my attitudes towards aging, I hope this question can be extended to the wider population.
There was this great picture that I saw where you were exploring cosmetic procedures and aunties. Can you talk about that particular series that you have?
Sure. So in the Auntie-verse, there are like 10 chapters of various aspects of life, like the city, body image, beauty. And then there's one chapter called the spa menu, where it's shown that aunties have these needles and acupuncture and all kinds of things that sticking out their faces. It looked incredibly painful and uncomfortable. So firstly is to reflect the culture of Asians putting things on their faces. Like my aunties would put food in their faces, like tea leaves and cucumber and all kinds of things, right? And then there's also the second thing of meeting societal expectations by doing these beauty treatments that cause a lot of pain. Acupuncture and injections and all that. So it was more about questioning, does it really work? And why are we doing this to ourselves? So all the aunties, they look very old and wrinkly, and yet they have all these things sticking out of their faces. So if you look at the image, it would feel like, oh my God, that's the shock factor.
Yes. I remember my aunt putting on orange peels on their faces for vitamin C and cucumbers and all of that stuff. It must be, and I didn't grow up in Singapore. So the auntie culture is beyond just Singapore, right? So
Exactly.
has it resonated, and what have people told you from different parts of the world?
Oh, well, it's incredible for me because, I exhibited in Mexico City in February last year. And then there was all these aunties who came up to me and they were like fascinated by the work. And then they were like, oh my God, we want to try AI as well. There's a 70-year-old auntie
Really?
who's an artist. Yes. And that's amazing. And earlier this year, I was in Barcelona giving a talk, and an Italian woman came up to me saying she was crying when she saw my video because she said, we come from very similar cultures. So I realized, and after the TED Talk as well, so many women of different cultures came up to me, and then I realized that it's more common than I thought. And yeah.
It's a very universal theme that you've touched upon. There's pathos in it. There's comedy in it. It's so funny and yet so nuanced. Would you say that Nice Aunties would not exist without AI?
I would say that yes, because I have an incredibly short attention span, and creating things, you need to apply attention. And being able to create so quickly creates a momentum, and the momentum creates flow.
If you were at SOTA or speaking to young Singaporeans who want to try different forms of art form, would you encourage them to work with AI?
Yeah, I would absolutely encourage them to try all kinds of medium until they find their own, because everyone is different. AI is fun, it's quick, but it may not be their form of expression. It could be through dance and body movements or poetry or writing or singing, anything that involves expressing your true voice.
And is it the fact that, you would say you were really influenced, if you were to think about in your work, not just thematically, but how it was used by Japan and South Korea? It kind of all started with the manga movement you were talking about. Which artists or cultures have been your biggest influence?
I would say it's a mix, but predominantly everything that I create is a result of my life experiences. So everybody that I come into contact with since childhood, all the information that I consumed, and then it's just there at the back of your mind or in your field of energy, just waiting to come out. When the moment is right, somehow they can all come together and it feels natural. Because everyone has got a different experience, right? Nobody can duplicate your life experience. So therefore, you have a unique voice based on that.
Some artists are still not comfortable with AI. They say it's, parasitic, it's theft, it's cheating. What do you say when you hear artists saying that?
Well, the thing is, everything that we create is built upon what came before us, whether we admit it or not. Even a traditional artist, they were influenced by other artists and their life experiences. So would you say they're stealing from the other artists? And then with AI, yes, it's the same process, just that it happened a lot faster, and some people might find it unfair. But just think about it that way. It's not about being lazy. It's about what you can do in that space of time. You can improve that same idea 20 times. So doesn't it move you forward at an exponential rate? And I find that incredibly powerful and incredible.
Are you going to continue with Nice Aunties for the foreseeable future? Is this kind of a lifelong exploration? I'm sure it'll have many paths it takes. But what is kind of next for you at the moment?
I guess the question for me is, how long will I keep asking this question to myself? Have I answered the question of what it means to be an auntie? What kind of auntie do I want to become? How do I feel about aging? And all the other questions related to that. So yes, I will keep asking this question. And Nice Aunties is a great avenue to explore different answers to those questions.
I love some of the work that you have. You have these images of aunties in a bowl of ramen.
Yeah.
What was that representing?
Well, that one was from a chapter called Factory. So they go to the factory and they work. And there was this implication of repeated labor and invisible labor and repetition and mass production and consumerism all mixed into one. But the twist is that the factory is not a place for working for the aunties. It's like a community club. So they have these feasts at lunch, and then there's leftover food because there's so much abundance. So they all have spa time in the leftover food.
So where did you come up with these ideas? I know it's a function of your experiences, but is it really your childhood and your exposure to the matriarchs in your family?
Yes. I mean, my parents, they worked in a factory.
Okay.
That was the nation building days of Singapore. Everyone worked in a factory. So they met in a factory and got together. And my auntie worked in a factory, in a toy factory. It was fun. And my parents, they were in electronics. So they were dealing with machinery and intricate details of things and how things are put together. And that is another theme that you see a lot in my work as well. There's a lot of factories, machineries.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's where it's coming from. Now Singapore is at a very different place.
Yes.
And so what do you think, what are nice aunties like today? Or you and I will become nice aunties maybe?
Yeah, I think so. But I suppose the aunties will evolve to be different, empowered versions of themselves. You know, the aunties, I always think that they will not exist for another 50 to 100 years. They'll be extinct. So yes, definitely another kind of auntie moving to a new age of Aquarius kind of aunties.
I think there's something very comforting about aunties.
Yes.
Also, but it's something offensive about them and comforting about them.
Yeah.
Which is precisely the tension which you are talking about, which I love.
Yeah, maybe it's a sliding scale of love, care, and insults, you know. So it's about us increasing the love factor, and
that's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about how artists prompt AI, but then AI also shapes the artist. Have you been shaped by it?
Well, earlier I mentioned that working with AI is like working with a team, right? So it's exactly the same when you work with real people. They come back with their own ideas, and sometimes the big idea is shaped by their contributions. So it's very similar, but your big idea remains the same. And AI is getting closer to doing exactly what you want. So I feel like 6 months in AI is equivalent to 2 years or more in the real world. And from 6 months ago till now, it has grown exponentially. Right now, you can really literally do rather like 99% exactly what you want, or very close to what you want. But I do enjoy the part from 6 months ago when there are lots of glitches, and then you prompt something, it doesn't exactly come back, but it might give you something that inspires another spin-off idea. And I love that process. So it's just like working with another creative person.
Do you like art that's just generated by AI? I mean, there's this whole now genre coming out of music, which is AI generated music. So there's Taylor Swift who is coming out with her new album, and there's 11 Labs that's releasing a lot of maybe one day AI artists, but now AI generated music. As an artist, as a creative person, do you see that as problematic, that there will be artists who are human, there'll be artists who collaborate with humans and AI, and then there will be just artists who are purely AI? How do you feel about that?
I think it's really cool. I think it's a natural progression of art history. I mean, technology happened, digital art happened, and this is just another step in the milestones of digital art and development. So we are in a digital age, right?
You know, I think, Nice Aunties, that people underestimate how open Asia is sometimes to new experiences. They think we're more conservative culturally, But what you have said, like as you said, they are in Japan and South Korea, is being very open to a new kind of world where you have AI, maybe artists also, and AI art, and that moves us.
Yeah.
And that tells a story, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And China as well. There's so much going on in China. And there are AI programs. It's amazing. It's rising up so quickly. But, I feel like right now it's kind of still closed and kept under wraps to a certain degree. There's so many talents and creators in China making things, but within their own network. So some of them do escape that sphere to Western social media like Instagram. But I know there's a lot of people. I wish I have access to that pool of creators.
That's one of the reasons I started AI Across Borders. I feel like the world is dominated by stories from just a few countries when it comes to AI.
Absolutely.
And they just don't get their due share of the globe's attention. And there's so many people from Africa to Latin America to Europe to Asia.
Yeah.
And this is very exciting to me because even when they cover it in a very kind of cold, mechanical way. But AI and the way Asia is using it can be very nuanced, can be very sensual and contradictory and paradoxical, like your work.
Thank you.
Which is lyrical and paradoxical and hilarious, but also troubling.
Yeah, troubling.
What do you feel is your responsibility? And you were talking about the EU AI Act or AI Action Plan. When it generates images, it is using images that maybe your image also. So let's say tomorrow there's an AI artist, from Myanmar or from Thailand or from France, and is generating art, but it's been scraped. Some of the foundational images have been scraped from Nice Aunties. How do you feel about that? And do you feel like we should have proper attribution to and permissions before you can use that art in the AI that generates new art from it?
Well, I think that is incredibly difficult to track.
Yeah.
And I said that everything that we make is built upon what's been made before, right? So I'm completely fine if somebody wants to base their work on my work. I mean, it does say something about my work. When that happens, I'm flattered,
It's a complicated question.
Yeah, it is a complicated question.
It's complicated because on the one hand, you may be emotionally okay with it, but on the other hand, there's the economics of it where somebody's put in the work and needs to be acknowledged. And if that thing is sold, needs to be, compensated. These are really important questions. I don't know if these conversations are happening in the AI art world.
It is. It happened at TED conference this year.
Okay.
Between TED and Chris Anderson, the CEO of TED, and Sam Altman on stage. He asked the exact question to watch the interview. And Sam was saying like it's incredibly difficult to attribute because, are you going to attribute to those people you grew up being influenced by and somehow find a way to compensate them as well? But the question was, if you exactly prompt the name of an artist, then somehow the economics of that subscription should go to those artists. So yeah, it is a very big and complicated question that nobody can answer right now. Maybe one day with quantum computing, AI maybe can sort this equation out.
Yes, that's a very good point. And maybe it's a small amount, but at least give that acknowledgement, give that compensation, but it has to be done in an automated fashion.
I mean, anyone would be angry if your work was taken without permission and then sold for profit. But there are also so many gray areas in between, like you could collaborate with that artist that you're influenced by and then you split the profits. That's one end of the spectrum. Or you could somehow attribute and give them a name shout out. Maybe that's not good enough. I don't know. It depends on every circumstance and every situation, right? Yeah.
What about the fact that there's so many art capitals in the world? And yet you do your art from Singapore, which is not traditionally associated as being a hub of art in the world. But is it going to become one?
Well, I find that the most important thing for my art is the internet and accessibility to technology, which is very easy from Singapore. Super high speed internet. Everything else is stored in the cloud. Because it's still early stage, so there are no restrictions and regulations that is prohibiting me from moving forward with my art. And our passport is amazing, which allows me a lot of mobility to go to these art events around the world. But the overall mindset of being an art capital, I think there's still a ways to go.
I wonder if these new technologies and the fact that so many of us live partially on the internet, as you said, is going to accelerate this mindset change, because we're all becoming more globalized. And the tension really is, as we become more globalized, how do we also retain our own sense of self, which could be from your culture, could be from your childhood, could be from anything, could be from travels. But it does present an opportunity to disrupt an old way of thinking about a place.
Yes, I hope so. Like, my grandmother making fish balls.
Right?
Yeah, nobody would know about it until I made that video using AI about my grandmother making fish balls.
Your grandmother making fish balls, right? How long does it take you from beginning to end to put that together?
Okay, so it's like a on and off process. You work on an idea and then you go take a break and do something else. So I usually have a couple of projects happening at the same time. So it could take anywhere from half a day to a couple of months to complete a video. But if I were to collapse all the time that I spend on the fish balls video, which is called Goddess, it takes about 1.5 weeks.
Yes, but like you said, you can't collapse the time because there's so much probably thinking happening at the back of your mind, processing, thinking, connecting the dots.
Yeah.
This is why I think that just talking about productivity and efficiency is a dangerous path to go down when talking about AI.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
Well, like take the Goddess fishball video as an example. If you were to think about it from a filmmaking perspective, using traditional methods, working with real actors and traditional resources, it would have taken a couple of years with the thinking, right? And now with AI, it just took 1.5 weeks.
That's a huge game changer.
Huge, massive. This is a total disruptor.
Not to mention, now think about somebody in a village in Bangladesh or in Kenya or even a favela in Brazil. How would they ever afford to make that film? Now they can actually imagine and create what they want with the AI.
Exactly. Incredible.
Do you teach at all? Or how do you, some of the things that you've learned, do you share them? Is there a place where artists get together and share notes on AI?
In the beginning and during the first year of exploration in 2023, when AI became more publicly accessible, there was a community on social media, on Instagram, where all the artists will share their prompts.
Oh.
And then we will mix our prompts and sort of have a prompt party. There's also this AI art community Discord channel where they have a topic every day and you can enter the competition. So say the topic today is strawberries. So you can make an artwork about strawberries, you can upload it, everyone, the community will vote. So sometimes you get to win. So I saw it as a chance to practice prompting. So I did that for the first 2 months.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yes. And so that there is a world out there that's very supportive
Yes.
and kind of a community
Yes.
for people who are using AI
Yes.
for art. And have you seen courses like that? Is it becoming part? And I know you didn't go to art school. You went instead to study architecture. But are people, or do you know of any universities that are using AI in Asia or in the West, Africa, or otherwise, that are using AI to help artists and teaching them this that you learned through this community?
There are many organizations online, that's for sure.
Okay.
And then I know Carlos Brennan, that you know, right? Carlos Brennan, here he teaches at SUTD, and he gives like talks about AI. He even developed his own program to adapt AI in architecture and control net.
That's right.
And he gives talks all over the world and to many companies as well. So personally, I don't teach on that regular basis, but I do give like lectures when people invite me to.
And so what is next for you in terms of travels, and would you be learning any new kind of technology? Would you be moving to 3D printed? Or would you be moving to more video? I'm just trying to understand what you see next in your journey.
So it's always about how I can expand on the Auntie-verse, which is this parallel universe I've been building for the past 2.5 years, right? So recently I made that physical sculpture for L'Oreal's private event.
Okay, yes.
Which is the big auntie head. So I collaborated with a sculptor. His name is Walter Adam Casotto. He is a professional prosthetic artist. So he does like the mask for Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, you know, the ox and all that. So we have this ginormous auntie head that's smiling with plants growing out of her face. So it's called Spring Skin. It's about cellular regeneration from within. And the event is called The Beauty of Longevity, which is super interesting because L'Oreal is trying to redefine what it means to be beautiful, and that as we age, we can still remain beautiful because it depends on our mindset and all kinds of things, right? And to me, that's incredible because nobody will associate an auntie, an outdated social stigma, with new ideas of beauty. Not too long ago, this would have been, what? Impossible, right? So to me, that is like a shift in society. So for me, the next steps would be to see how the Auntieverse can expand more into society through various projects. Like I'm going to be exhibiting in London for a month on a building facade on Oxford Street from the 4th to the 30th of September. So it's going to be about the Auntie-verse, and so the general public is going to have access to this art. And then in November, I'm going to be in Paris Photo, which is one of the largest, most important photographic fairs in the world. And there's a digital art section. So it will be interesting because I'm going to make something that will push and expand on the Auntie-verse, but yet related to photos. I can't wait to share it with the world.
I'm so excited that the whole world is opening up its doors to you, Nice Aunties, because I think more people need to see the work you've done. You're so nuanced and thoughtful about it. It's remarkable that right here in my city, you have been doing this for 2.5 years, and I just discovered your work a few months ago. We'll give all of our audience the links to your work, to your social media. Thank you so much for this incredible interview, for your openness and honesty, and for being here with me today.
Thank you, Aisha. Well, it's the power of the aunties.
Yes.
And I always believe there's an auntie in all of us.
There's definitely an auntie in me.
Yes, there's also an auntie in me. And all of us, actually.
Even the men, right?
Yes, definitely. It's actually the very, very human side of us that maybe we don't show most people. So I think aunties at a particular stage in their lives, they don't care anymore. So they just show it, you know?
That's true. That's very true. Well, thank you, Nice Aunties.
Thank you.